Hey, folks. It is Thursday, March 5th, 2026. You're listening to the Daily Ledger Show, and I'm your host, Dennis Sert. Great to be here with you tonight. We got the setup back. We got the cool Shure mic. We got the cool camera. I'm liking this. I had to go old school for a couple of days there while I got settled in, but we got the setup up and running again. We got some good stories we're going to get into today. We're going to get into Pentagon officially notifies Anthropic it is a supply chain risk. And we're going to kind of go into that. We're going to talk about how some people on TikTok responded to one of my TikToks, one specifically, and we're going to get into what he said, which is ridiculous. Anthropic CEO Dario Amodei calls OpenAI's messaging around military deals straight up lies, report says. OpenAI launches GPT 5.4 with Pro and Thinking versions. BYD rolls out EV batteries with 5-minute flash charging, but there's a catch. So we're going to get into all of that. Before we get into it, make sure to hit the like button, comment, and subscribe. Follow if you're on Instagram Reels or TikTok. We got some good stuff. Share with all of your friends. And let's get into it. Pentagon officially notifies Anthropic it is a supply chain risk. Anthropic has said it will sue the Department of War over the designation, which could prevent the startup from doing business with the U.S. government. So it's official. A couple of days ago, well, yesterday, we saw that, oh, hey, there might be some, like the deal might be salvageable between the Department of War, the U.S. government, and Anthropic. There were some murmurings of that. It was on the Financial Times, TechCrunch. Doesn't seem like we're there yet. It seems like we're farther away from that outcome with this, essentially the newest happenings. Pentagon officially notifying them that there's supply chain risk. It's like official now. And it's crazy because if we go into this like comment I got from this TikToker, so we know that OpenAI, like Altman jumped in and was like, oh, well, we'll take the deal, right? It seems like, I feel like normies don't fully understand that not everything is about like Orange Man bad. Like, it's not about like, you have to understand the players on the chessboard, right? You have the Department of War, like I said, in that kind of fun and silly analogy yesterday, is like the cheerleader, right? And then you have the star quarterback, Anthropic, and then the chess player, nerd guy, Altman or OpenAI, right? Yeah, it's a fun example, but like that is kind of, what's going on, right? Like the Department of War contract is the contract that's sought after, and then there are multiple players that are kind of vying for that contract. And it seems like some liberals think that that's not the case, and somehow like one of these random startups or random companies is going to like strong arm the US government. So here's this guy who says, so just for context, in this video, in this reel, in this TikTok, I kind of talked about that. I said, Dennis says Amodei changed his mind about automated AI weapons, mass domestic surveillance. It's kind of funny because like, he made a huge show about how he's against both of these two things. And then him saying, not to explain a joke, but like with Amodei saying, well, we might actually do the deal. It's kind of like it's a bit like he's going back on those two things that he said were blocking the deal. So that's kind of the joke, right? And it's not fully a joke because that is kind of what's happening. It's very much based in reality. It's just a funny way of spinning it, right? And so this guy goes, they will likely sign the same contract OpenAI mocked up last week, explicitly disallowing use of their AI for surveillance and autonomous AI weaponry. Like, do you realize how wrong you are? Like, you really think that, like, first of all, let's just face it. Anthropic is better than OpenAI. Claude is better than ChatGPT. I think we can all kind of understand that. Claude Code is so much better than Codex. if you're a serious enterprise customer, you want to be using Claude and not ChatGPT. If you're a direct to consumer guy, maybe you can use ChatGPT. Okay, so it's like they want Anthropic. So if OpenAI, and it's like Anthropic made a really bad, like, unforced error. They could have made a whole bunch of money just getting in bed with the U.S. government, and they just on moral grounds or whatever, which I think is just ridiculous. They're like, okay, well, we're gonna reject you over this like moral conundrum we have, which I already dug into why it's stupid. Like there was already all that Vault 7 stuff, Edward Snowden, since 2007, whatever. Like, the mass domestic surveillance isn't new. 1984, written in like 1947. Uh, the TV's listening to you, right? 2015, 2014, Samsung, terms of service, smart TVs, talks about how you shouldn't talk about sensitive material near their TVs. Why? Because it listens to you. That's the whole point. Your iPhone, Hey Siri, right? Hey Google, all of these like modern pieces of technology, like your phone and stuff, modern AI, Siri, Gemini, they have wake words, sure, but like they're always listening to you in order to respond to that wake word. That's kind of how it works, right? So this isn't new, right? But that's just a side point. So it's very silly and very stupid for Amodai to put his foot down here and say, "Oh, we're not going to do what's been going on since 1947." It's like, okay. And so, anyways, I kind of already dug into that yesterday and kind of the day before, but the fact of the matter here is that this random guy thinks that who might be representative of the normies here. This random guy thinks that OpenAI signed the exact same deal that Anthropic or no. He thinks that somehow these two deal breakers that Anthropic walked away from were somehow like off the table. Like, of course they're still on the table because OpenAI doesn't have as much leverage as Anthropic. OpenAI has much less leverage than Anthropic because their product isn't as good for enterprise and for government. Okay, so yes, Altman, OpenAI will be ready to accept any deal and any terms on that deal with the U.S. government in order to get that contract. And yet this guy thinks that, oh, well, they explicitly disallowed their use of AI. So you're saying that the U.S. government just happened to be ready to fold when the better option walked away? No, they still got what they wanted. And OpenAI was the bitch. And that's exactly what Amodai is saying here. Anthropic CEO Dario Amodai calls OpenAI's messaging around military deal straight up lies, report says. Here's Sam Altman, straight from the horse's mouth, saying Sam Altman wants elected officials, not OpenAI, to decide how military uses AI. Okay, that means that, you know what? They're deferring responsibility to the U.S. government. They're saying, hey, you can do whatever you want. I'm just the middleman. That's what that means. Right? I think so this is straight from Altman. I think one of the civil liberties in this country that's most important is the government does not spy without, warrants and good legal process on its own citizens. The definition of what that is, going to mean. Oh, okay, got it. The definition of what that's going to mean needs to change with technology. Okay, so it's as if, all these like WikiLeaks emails and stuff, and like Vault 7 was never a thing, right? In 2017, it was a huge thing where it's like, oh my God, that, the NSA is spying on you and everything. And of course they are. It's just the way it is. All your phone calls, all that. That's why people use like Signal and encrypted things. Then like, I would say WhatsApp, but then that's Meta. There might be backdoors and stuff like, Pegasus and whatnot. I mean, yeah. I mean, there are ways. I mean, nothing is really that secure, but the most unsecure thing is just a straight up phone call that goes straight into the NSA. And so that's kind of what these Vault 7 files talk about. There goes my light. And so let me set this back up. There we go. So yeah, so that's kind of what's going on here, and that's why Edward Snowden is in Russia, because he blew the whistle on all of this. Of course, this was already going on since before he blew the whistle, but and no, I mean, just going back to the point, it's funny that normies and liberals think that somehow OpenAI had the moral high ground, the so-called moral high ground in that deal with the Department of War, with the US government. They really think that that new deal explicitly disallows the use of AI for surveillance and autonomous AI weaponry. Oh yeah, really? Is that what you think? Where's Edward Snowden, bro? Like, are you really that naive? Like, yeah. So the worst option, the bitch, is really, you think, going to have enough leverage to be like, hey, that better option walked away because of these deal breakers. I have those same deal breakers. No, Altman is of course desperate because he needs to contend. Um, he needs to keep OpenAI relevant for enterprise and for government. So of course he's gonna just with deductive reasoning alone, you can very quickly realize that, hey, you know what? Altman probably agreed to mass surveillance and autonomous AI weaponry. And here's him essentially admitting to it, saying, like, you know what, it's actually out of our hands. Altman wants elected officials, not OpenAI, to decide how military uses AI. Well, there you go. It's you know, yeah. What are you gonna do though, right? OpenAI launches GPT 5.4, speak of the devil, with pro and thinking versions. Okay, so there you go. It's their most capable and efficient frontier model for professional work. So that's cool. It's optimized for high performance. GPT 5.4 excels at creating long horizon deliverables such as slide decks, financial models, and legal analysis, delivering top performance while running faster and at a lower cost than competitive frontier models. You know, let me tell you something. I was listening on the Finance Daily Show this morning. The show's co-host, David Towell, he's like a lawyer, and his lawyer buddy was telling him that there's only like a couple years left of his lawyering career. Not because he really necessarily wants to retire. It's because AI has just gotten that good. And by the by the time we're 2 years from now, it's going to be game over. AI is just going to do everything. And that's where we're at with software engineering. That's where we're at with, lawyer work, right? Law. Um, we're essentially there with everything except like trades, like cooking, like if you're a plumber, just like trade stuff. And pretty soon, and that's next, by the way. So in the next 2 years or so, these other things, like I said, software engineering, law, that's out the window as a career. And then on a slightly longer time horizon, let's say like 5 or 6 to 10 years, that's when the physical robots come in and then take the trade jobs too. So there's no escape really. And you don't have to be a nihilist about it. You don't have to be like, oh my God, it's over. Like we can't do it. Like it's fine. Like whatever. Just like accept it. Just accept that this is where the world is going and try and like, you know, milk the most you can out of the time you have left in your career. You know what I mean? It's like it doesn't have to be a nihilist perspective per se. You can just like kind of accept the reality. Like you kind of just always have to be brutally honest. You have to be ruthlessly honest with what's going on, what the situation is, everything. You know, when you start to lie to yourself and you're like, oh my God, no, it's really, you start to gaslight yourself. No, it's really like this. It's like, I'm always going to have my job. It's like, no, you fucking aren't. It's like, you are a loser. Like, you will never keep your job. You know what I mean? It's like the higher up will eventually just, throw your ass out of the company. You know what I mean? Um, so this is more introducing GPT 5.4 designed for professional work, straight from OpenAI. This is kind of interesting. BYD rolls out EV batteries with 5-minute flash charging, but there's a catch. So BYD, which kind of, let's face it, overtook Tesla in the global EV market. Of course, I've been arguing that Tesla doesn't really want to compete in the EV market anymore. We see that with how they axed the Model S, Model X. They're moving towards autonomous vehicles. They're moving towards Optimus and like robotics. Anyways, but BYD is talking about how they unveiled a new battery pack that's capable of charging from 10% to 70% in 5 minutes. So that's extremely quick. Up to 100% in 4 minutes. Um, or 4 minutes more. So 9 minutes total. Nice. Um, yeah, and the catch is you can only do at these like special, what they call flash chargers, and they're apparently like super well connected to like overhead towers. And so China has 4,200 of these flash charging stations completed, with 16,000 more by end of year. But apparently they double dipped with the name, and they're calling Flash both for the real Flash as well as the real Flash chargers, as well as these like other 1 megawatt charger Flash chargers. So kind of confusing there. Kind of muddies the numbers, to be honest. So who knows what the real numbers are, but whatever. They have a whole bunch of these flash chargers supposedly in China. So okay, I mean that's cool. That we're not going to cheer against innovation. So good for them. Cool. I think we're going to end it there. I hope you guys have a great night, great rest of your evening, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.